I've always been afraid of thunder, ever since I was a child. It's a bit strange considering that I've never really been afraid of lightning. Only thunder that followed. Maybe it's because of the noise or the sudden vibrations, but something about it gives me chills to the bone. Sorry to ramble on, but it is something that have to do with my story. My story begins in the middle of the woods. You see, I used to be in a civilized referred as a hermit. I used to live in a log cabin out in the woods. You probably think it has to do with the beauty of nature, but really I was just tired of all the hustle and bustle of the big city. Of course, I no longer live in said cabin, but we'll get to that soon enough. It was a dark and stormy night, a bit cliched, I know. I had drifted off to sleep in my lounge chair, half lifted a glass of wine in my left hand. Suddenly, I awoke to a sound like a loud crash, assuming that someone might have broken into my house. I grabbed the closest object that I could find, which happened to be a fire poker. I checked each room carefully, a sigh of relief that no one had really broken in. Then I turned my attention to the dark red stain spread across my pants and then over the linen rug. When I was about to go and change when suddenly a loud crash rang out. Startled, I fell back into my chair, grasping as if I was running out of oxygen. I quickly jumped back into my feet and quickly began to pace. Another loud crash rang out, followed by a frail log cabin shaking. I was about to head to my bedroom to cower beneath my covers, when suddenly, as if out of nowhere, a loud crash could be heard. This time it was certain it wasn't the storm. The sound of it came from my attic. I stood in fear of what has to become. I grabbed my hunting rifle and headed to the hatch of the attic. As I stood below, all I could be heard was silence. In my mind, I had decided that it was most likely a rodent or something messing up around up there, so I quickly put down my gun and began to head out to my bathroom. But I tried to fall asleep, but all I could think about was that looming storm above and that noise. I was finally about to drift off to sleep when suddenly a noise could be heard from down the hall. It was so quiet that it could have been anything. However, my mind refused to dismiss this as I listened for a good 5 minutes, but alas, that all I heard was silence. By then, I was afraid. I stood up and went to lock my bedroom door. What came next gave me the heart attack. I was standing before the door ready to lock it when it creaked open slightly. I jumped backwards onto my bed, hyperventilating almost as on cue. Another loud crash was heard of thunder could be heard. I looked around my bedroom, too mortified to stand up. Sadly, there were no weapons to be found. I had to left my only gun out in the hallway. I quickly stood up and rushed to the closest door, but for some reason, no matter how hard I pushed, the door just wouldn't close. That's when I saw it. A dull gray eye could be seen through the crack open in my door, staring back at me. I pushed one last time and reluctantly the door slammed shut. Thunder was at least of my worries. I thought that I could possibly even go. Even if I did climb out of the window, I still lived in the midst of the dense woods. My thoughts were cut short when I heard a slow, rhythmic banging coming from my door. I decided to take my chances. I rushed over to the window and propped it open with the umbrella that my mother had given to me as a child. Despite my rather large body, I somehow managed to fit through the window, and quite nicely. After climbing down through the window, I fell face first into the mud, but somehow I didn't seem to care. All that mattered was getting out of the woods. I sprung to my feet and ran off into the distance. As I ran, occasionally glancing back to see if that thing was still following me. However, that all changed when I began to hear a swift rhythmic pounding on the ground behind me. I picked up pace, sprinting as if I was running a marathon. Thunder ran out through the woods once more, and I jumped, falling face first into a tree. I knew I was doomed. I lay there in the daze, listening to the pounding getting closer, ready to face death. I turned around to see only nothing. There was nothing there except seemingly endless rows of trees. After that, I moved out of the woods and back to my old apartment. I never did return to that cabin. I had my friends collect my stuff from the cabin, from what I was told, but there was nothing inside that could be considered unusual or out of the ordinary. I remember seeing the eye, but that was really anything pursuing me in the woods that night. I often find myself thinking about that night and analyzing every critical detail, yet I always end up with nothing. was that thing and what it did wanted from me. At the end, the fears have an ability to mess with your mind. So maybe, just maybe, it was just the thunder. And that, my little pretties, was It's Just a Thunder, a creepypasta written by Dazerbalt. My final thoughts on the story? Well, I have to say it's a pretty good pasta, although I did notice maybe one or two flaws with the story, which I will get to that in a bit. But first, I want to go with what I actually thought about this story. Now, for one thing, I first heard of this story from a narrator I think believe was Nathan Cassup or something. I think yeah, he did. He was the first one who read this story, I believe, back in 2000 and I'm not sure. It was 5 years ago. So I'm assuming it might have been maybe 2015. Yeah, 2015. And then I heard this story from Shivers, which was 3 years ago. And then I heard of this one from Mr. Nightmare at one point. Now, the Mr. Nightmare narration, I remember hearing that story before Mr. Nightmare stopped doing creepypastas. But I decided to definitely take a look at this because, funny enough, there was a thunderstorm earlier where I'm at. It's not really thundering right now or anything. It's just raining. So there's definitely that. I've been needing to read this for a while, and today is the perfect day because since it's a thunderstorm or was thunderstorming, where I was. So this was actually perfect for me to narrate this because, I understand we've all been, nervous or weirded out by thunder as a kid. Like, I sometimes do get jumps from the loud crashes it does make every now and then, but it doesn't really bother me as much as it used to. So, there's definitely that. And the fact that, this person, felt that he's being watched or something in the woods or, in this house about the gray eye or something, I'm not really sure if that was actually somebody, who broke in or the cabin might have been haunted. Now, I do have a feeling that the cabin might have been haunted and the guy didn't know about it till the day there was a storm or something, which I'm assuming that could be it, but yet again, I really don't know. It is a possibility though with this theory. But if you guys really agree with my theory, let me know in the comments below cuz I would like to hear what your thoughts are on this story. Now, the one flaw I definitely would have to say was it wasn't really identified about this, well, this grave eye or something. Like, there's no explanation that if it was, something paranormal or if it was an actual person. It's not really properly explained in the story. So that actually had me be confused. I'm assuming it's paranormal, but yet again, who really knows? I'm not really 100% sure on that, but who really knows to be honest? What could have been better is if it was properly explained on what it was. Then that way the story would be, more believable in a sense. But yet again, I know this is like an older pasta, so I'm not going to be too harsh. It's an older pasta. I'm not really sure exactly when this pasta was, made. I believe this was made sometime I guess 2013. Yeah, maybe around 2013, not really sure when, but it's one of the classic and older creepy pastas, to be honest. And another major flaw I would have to say was why was the guy, scared of that thing, and why did he not leave the cabin sooner? Like, if he did notice that, he could have just gone to the police or something if he noticed something weird with the cabin. But yet again, I'm not really too sure. I know that this is an older story, so I'm willing to give the author, a bit of credit on that. But yet again, besides the two flaws, they weren't really major. The one major one was the fact of the figure. Not really sure if that gray eye was like, paranormal or if it was actually a real person. But to be completely honest, it almost felt like a real person to me, and that's what I thought. But yet again, it's not properly explained. Now, I would have like a proper explanation. That way, the story would be more interesting, but it would actually be more believable in a sense. Another really big thing I did notice is that the grammar was good. I'm not gonna lie. Same thing with the sentence structuring and how it's structured very well. How the story is structured, which I'm really glad that the grammar itself was good in that sense. So anyways, besides those issues that I did explain, I actually really found this one to be, an enjoyable story. But yeah, about that figure thing, I really hope that if it's either paranormal or real, it needs to be explained better. But then that way, the story would be more believable in a sense. But I guess with that said, I'm gonna sit here and say this right now. This is just simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these creepypastas, and this is just simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of the story would have to be a 8.5 out of 10. I've given it an 8.5 out of 10 because of how beautifully written this was. It's a really good, enjoyable creepypasta. But the only big major thing was the gray eye figure or something. It's not really identified if it was paranormal or if it was actually a real person in there. Like, it's not really, explained. I really would wish there was like a proper explanation regarding that. And another thing right here is, how did the guy not find this out sooner or something? Like, it doesn't really explain how sooner he found out. Like, maybe it'd be believable if it was like maybe a few years ago, maybe a couple years ago, or maybe when he was at a certain age or something. At least in that way, it would be more believable to extent. But with that being said, what did you guys think about this story, creepypasta? Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you're new to my channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. And don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload, so that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.